I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. This board, on behalf of our members, is getting shit done. And we're here to do even more of that this week. Your hard work, your commitment to excellence, and your belief in the power of unionism directly contributes to ALPA's success. And for that, I am eternally grateful. We'll talk more about our accomplishments and cover what remains to be tackled, but I want to start by saluting our unity, your unity, and our common cause in strengthening the airline piloting profession. Together, we've built a solid foundation for the future, and I'm ready to work with you to get even more done. We're breaking down barriers between pilot groups and making it clear that our opposition is and will always be intransigent management and forces trying to roll back safety. We're sharing information, subject matter expertise, and we're making a difference. I'm inspired by what we've gotten done and what we will continue to accomplish in the year ahead, together. Our unity is a fundamental tool to improving our careers, not just in our work with our companies, but in our constant advocacy before regulators and lawmakers in Washington and in Ottawa. By speaking with one voice as pilots, we have ensured that regulators and our elected leaders listen to us. And a current example of that unity is the power of our union is happening right now on Capitol Hill as the House prepares to vote on an FAA reauthorization bill that includes our priorities without any concessions on safety and does not raise the retirement age. It was an uphill battle with special interests working hard to undermine our union's priorities and air safety. No less than the Speaker of the House and Senator Ted Cruz tried to put their thumb on the scale to increase pilot retirement age, but our united voice and your resolve, your voices and your resolve, made it possible for us to win a pro-safety, pro-labor bill without making concessions. Because we have made this union a power player in Washington, D.C., I was in regular contact with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. In fact, he called me the night before the vote when Cruz was pushing to offer a 67 as an amendment to the Senate bill. He told me in no uncertain terms that he had our back and would not waver on a major labor priority. And he didn't, because we worked together and stood together with the House of Labor. The attempt to leverage ALPA issues as a partisan wedge did not work. Throughout this long and fraught process, our priorities, your priorities, and those of our members were front and center. We made it clear to our pilot partisan allies on the Hill that anything compromising aviation safety or impacting your rights to protect your hard-fought collective bargaining agreements would be unacceptable. ALPA not only stopped attempts to weaken safety or our labor rights, we added new tools to make our industry stronger. Put simply, ALPA is winning. Labor is winning, and our pilots will reap the benefits. In this deal, we advocated for and won enhanced runway and airport alerting systems, stronger protections for flight crew cooperating with accident and incident investigations, protections for flight crew from FAA certificate action and employer discipline related to cockpit voice recorders, a pathway to require secondary barriers for existing passenger aircraft to close a gap in safety regulations that was a priority after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and a standardized system for reporting smoke and fume events on passenger-carrying aircraft, plus rulemaking to allow onboard detectors and monitoring equipment. This bill will add more air traffic controllers to address the challenges of our brothers and sisters at NATCA, and will provide more pathways for young people and veterans to choose careers in our great profession. Let's be clear, ALPA has been the voice of safety throughout this process, and without us, aviation would be less safe. No doubt, it was the diligence and doggedness of our professional advocacy team that shepherded a pro-ALPA bill through. It was also the regular meetings pilots had with their representatives in their districts and the extensive engagement in ALPA calls to action that stopped these threats of safety to our careers. Since we launched our first call to action in March of 2023, ALPA pilots sent over 260,000 letters and placed more than 2,500 phone calls to their members of Congress, voicing their opposition, 500 to U.S. Senate in the last 3 days of the campaign alone. None of these tactics work in a vacuum. Our advocacy and political programs are coordinated in strategic ways to position us for immediate wins and long-term success. That is why we are redoubling our commitment to our district advocate program and in-state labor advocacy programs, direct engagement, and relationship-building work. I've experienced it firsthand over the last year in Washington, D.C., and each of you should do the same in your districts, states, and constituencies. We need your action and your commitment to advocacy work to continue beyond today as we build on the connections and credibility we earned through the reauthorization process. ALPA PAC is one of the tools that delivers for this union in a big way by opening doors and allowing dialogue and education on our issues. At last year's legislative summit, we did something we haven't done in nearly a decade. We created a new PAC donor level, the Benke 1931. In less than a year, this donor club, which is reached with an investment of $1,931, has already grown to 175 members, including many of you in this room. Together, as one voice, we have taken meaningful steps to shape this reauthorization bill, and the future of aviation is better as a result. Thank you to every one of you who spoke up, spoke out, talked with your representatives, took an action, or donated to the PAC. You made our industry safer and stronger. As we take the next steps in our advocacy work beyond the FAA reauthorization, your continued engagement, I should have known to turn my own phone off. Your continued engagement will be fundamental to both preserving our wins and improving aviation. There is always more work we can do, and we will keep fighting during our annual legislative summit next month. As the FAA reauthorization process wraps up, we must continue the hard work of being the conscience of the industry with our lawmakers and with regulators. The bill crossing the line will only mark a transition in our work to making sure the law's implementation is carried out with the safety-first spirit that was intended. If this afternoon plays out as expected, I want to be clear that this is not a victory lap or spiking the football. While our success recognizes our commitment to follow ALPA policy and the unanimous direction of our highest governing body, the Board of Directors, approximately 1 in 4 of our members felt differently and desired an increase. We have work to do going forward to ensure that all members, including those that sought the increase, stand together in solidarity with us as we tackle other threats to our profession, including the largest threat to safety, reduced crew operations. One of the best examples of our solidarity and our success is our offer to return dues directly to all ALPA members for the first time in history. The unprecedented offer to return $50 million in dues is a reflection of a union that is strong, healthy, and effectively demanding the best for our members. When I took office last January, I committed to achieving the industry-leading contracts that our members have earned. And because of your hard work at the negotiating table, in council meetings, and the informational picket line, we've raised the bar for pilot contracts across the industry. Our first-of-a-kind, across-the-board dues return offer will be available to all U.S. and Canadian members based on a pro rata dues paid in 2023 and is a product of this unity and our commitment to being responsible fiduciaries of ALPA's dues dollars. I'd like to commend the Structure, Services, and Financial Review Committee, the Executive Council, Wes, and my fellow national officers for identifying this surplus, carrying out the necessary due diligence, and supporting the decision to offer and return this money to our members. Representing nearly 30% of dues that went to national, 30%, and almost 16% of total dues, this return comes entirely from ALPA national funds and certainly does not inhibit individual MECs from offering their own refunds if eligible. Our commitment is that ALPA membership will always work as an investment in strengthening the future of your career and our profession. The SAFER Committee and Executive Council are continuing their top-down review on other recommendations for long-term policy changes related to ALPA finances, appropriate reserve levels, projected surpluses, and dues rates. As we review these potential changes, we will ensure that ALPA dues continue to be the best investment in your career that you ever make. We're building a culture of collaboration across pilot groups that played a fundamental role in the contract gains that have made this offer of dues possible. In this cycle of negotiations, we've developed a culture where pilot group leaders are welcome to reach out to leaders across the association to learn from their experiences and lean on their expertise. Now at ALPA, the success of one pilot group helps build on the success of all other pilot groups. It is no longer a zero-sum mentality, but rather a commitment to the collective, proving that we are indeed stronger together. At the negotiating table and through the work of the strategic planning and the strategic preparedness and strike committees, we're collaborating to learn from and build upon the successes of each other. And on the informational picket lines, pilots from across the association are showing up to create an even more dominant display of unity and strength. Our members at Breeze experienced that firsthand last week in Norfolk with the success of their first informational picket. I want to commend the MEC and the National SPC for their efforts to make this happen. Now it's time to get the Breeze pilots their first contract as an ALPA carrier. It is into this culture of collaboration that I welcome our newest members from Air Inuit. We're continuing to expand our reach and our impact in Canada. The ability to speak with one voice for Canadian pilots is such a benefit to our profession. Last month, I had the pleasure of joining the ALPA Canada Board for their first strategic planning session since 2017. And with the rapid growth that we've experienced in Canada, it was a valuable opportunity to identify opportunities and continue to express a united voice for Canadian pilots. Through our successful organizing efforts in 2023 alone at Air Inuit, Kuwait Air, Pascan Aviation, and our merger with the Air Canada Pilots Association, which this body approved at this meeting 1 year ago, as well as the ongoing work to bring in the pilots at Porter, we are almost the singular voice of commercial pilots in Canada. We recognize the privilege and responsibility of speaking with such a united voice and are committed to continuing to provide the highest level of service and representation to those pilots at the negotiating table and on Parliament Hill. Speaking of our work on Parliament Hill, we have solidified our role as leaders of Canadian labor movement, and we are showing our strength as the unified voice of Canadian pilots. We're using that newfound influence in the fight to close a policy loophole that is used to prevent pilots from lawfully striking. And we will continue to fight so that the rights of union pilots are never unjustly limited. ALPA is committed to battling to secure the contracts for our members they have earned and closing the gap between the contracts in the US and those in Canada. Last week, the pilots at WestJet Encore sent a strong message to their management that they must do more to improve quality of life by rejecting a tentative agreement, and we are ready to raise the bar when the Air Canada pilots secure their first ALPA contract. We will continue assisting other pilots groups, whether in direct negotiations, mediation, or joint collective bargaining agreement negotiations. As the FedEx Express pilots refocus on returning to mediated negotiations, we are committing to do whatever it takes to help them secure a contract that meets the needs of their pilots. To assist in achieving the contract that they deserve, I've asked SPSC Chair Ronan O'Donoghue to embed himself with the FedEx MEC, and we will bring all national resources to bear as we have for each ALPA airline in bargaining. Jose, we are with you. While we've achieved successes in negotiations, we also recognize that a contract is only as good as our ability to enforce it. That's why I'm so proud that we've established the President's Grievance Committee, and they recently held their first meeting to improve on how we share ideas and best practices across pilot groups. Where we already had resources and structures for negotiating collaboration established through the Collective Bargaining Committee, we lack the same structure and content for contract enforcement. As a pilot-led organization, we always benefit from new ideas brought up through the national level, like this idea that came from the JetBlue MEC. You'll hear more about the work of the Grievance Committee from Wes when he speaks. By collaborating and acting on new ideas, we're strengthening our ability to enforce our contracts and protect the hard-fought work we achieved at the negotiating table. I was proud to join the JetBlue MEC in New York last month for their 10-year anniversary celebrations since becoming ALPA members. Their anniversary was an opportunity to reflect on how far we have come in the past decade. 20 of the pilot groups that are part of ALPA today joined after JetBlue joined in 2014, and we are stronger because of this growth. At the same time, we must also acknowledge that there are groups that have left us since that time. The pilots of Lynx and iAero are an asset to our union and our profession, even as their carriers close, and we are committed to supporting them through this difficult transition in every way possible. We are also committed to supporting the pilots who are facing furloughs, threats of furloughs, at Spirit, Amerijet, and New Pacific Airlines, formerly known as Raven Alaska. Our union is also leading the way to address mental health and ensure that seeking help is not the first step towards ending your career. ALPA joined the NTSB's Navigating Mental Health and Aviation Summit, and because of ALPA's position as the leading and most respected pilots union, was asked to co-chair the Mental Health and Aviation Medical Clearances Aviation Rulemaking Committee, which you will hear more about from Travis Ludwig and Dr. Quay Schneider, who are on the committee. We also hosted our own roundtable to discuss mental health and how we can better support our members. And in the FAA reauthorization bill, we fought for improvements to FAA aeromedical and successfully included a pathway for implementing rulemaking committee's recommendations. You will hear more about all the work we are doing to support our pilots and call for the changes in how we approach mental health in the aviation sector from Wendy. As part of the Mental Health Awareness Month, our pilot assistance group launched the Are You in the Green campaign to encourage members to pay attention to the mental health of our peers, our families, and ourselves. The campaign is named after a question every pilot should ask every time we step foot on the flight deck. Are you in the green? Ask if you are mentally healthy and ready to fly. Stress and mental health concerns can come in many forms and from many sources, but we need to make sure that when we fly, we are tuned into ourselves. If you aren't in the green, that is a sign that you need to take action, to take care of yourself, and to reach out to ALPA's peer support system. As you return to your pilot groups, please make sure they know about this campaign and that the resources that are available to them through ALPA. If you or one of your members needs help, ALPA is here for you. The Pilot Superior Program is a confidential, non-judgmental, and available 24/7. Time and time again, we're reminded that the most important safety feature on every flight deck is the presence of at least 2 experienced and well-rested pilots on the flight deck. We were just recently reminded of this fact last week when a FedEx 767 had to make an emergency landing with the nose gear retracted. And I'm grateful that the crew for safely getting the aircraft on the ground, and I'm sure they were grateful not to be alone on the flight deck. Those pilots last week ensured a safe outcome, just as the FedEx pilots last year saved the day when they prevented a collision with a Southwest 737 in Austin. And just as pilots do day in, day out, when they step in to prevent a seemingly small issue from turning into a great tragedy. Unfortunately, there is a concerning push by some, including at least one airplane manufacturer, to reduce the number of pilots on the flight deck. And even more outrageous, they have regulators greasing the skids to make it happen. Now, they'll do it slowly at first, but an executive from Airbus recently said the quiet part out loud and made it clear that their intention is to facilitate 0 pilot operations, not just single, reduced, or extended minimum crew operations. I believe this is the single greatest threat to aviation safety. But as the ever-present conscience of the industry, we ALPA pilots are doing everything in our power to stop this threat to safety. We are leaning in and setting the groundwork to stop reduced crew operations. The FAA reauthorization bill included, at our insistence, a prohibition on any review or recommendation of UAS in 121 operations by the newly created UAS Advisory Committee. Our work to prevent reduced crew operations is a top priority for ALPA, and the work is reflected in every piece of work we do. A recent article by Forbes highlighted that our contracts at United and Delta have strong prohibitions against reduced crew operations, while that at American and the Allied Pilots Association's contract has no such protection. That is the difference that an ALPA contract makes. We look ahead at ensuring that safety is protected alongside the quality of life and economic priorities. In fact, 9 ALPA contracts have language addressing reduced crew operations, and others in negotiations are prioritizing similar language. Last year, we partnered with pilots from around the globe to protect safety against reduced crew operations and launched the Safety Starts With 2 campaign. With our partners at the International Federation of Airline Pilots Associations and the European Cockpit Association, we've had great engagement from all over the world. And this is an issue where pilots are unified and engage with one voice for safety. As we continue to gather international support for our opposition to reduced crew operations, as well as to economic regulatory threats to piloting profession, ALPA has rejoined the International Transport Workers Federation, and I recently met with the Civil Aviation Section Committee in London to discuss our concerns and elicit their support. I will continue working with labor leaders across the world to make sure we are in solidarity to stop reduced crew operations, including our labor partners here in the United States. Tomorrow, the Transport Trades Department of the AFL-CIO will adopt a policy resolution opposing reduced crew operations. The TTD is made up of 37 transportation-related affiliate unions who are standing side by side with us in this fight. We'll use this policy statement next month at our legislative summit, where we launch our education campaign against reduced crew to Congress. We are reestablishing ALPA as a leader on the international stage and re-engaging with our peers across the world. Like many threats to safety, reduced crew operations will not start in American or Canadian airspace, but when it becomes the standard in other countries, it will be too late to stop it here. Last week, at the International Federation of Airline Pilots Association's annual conference, we collaborated with our colleagues across the globe on how we will stop these threats to safety and our careers and cemented ALPA pilots as leaders of the international pilot community. Our long game strategy is working with ALPA pilots now holding 9 elected leadership positions in ALPA, and we secured increased leadership within the executive structure. We've seen domestically that when we work together, we get shit done, and when we are bringing that mentality to the international stage. I'd like to thank the newly elected volunteers for their willingness to dive in head first, as well as thank the outgoing ALPA volunteers for their efforts on behalf of not only our members, but on the entire Federation. Our opposition to reduced crew operations isn't because we oppose technology or want to hold the industry back. Just the opposite. We embrace technology to assist pilots in safe flight, and we embrace technology to modernize and increase efficiency in the way that we work at ALPA. As Sean will also discuss in his report, we have made significant progress in updating how we do business at ALPA. Since Sean took office following the last time we met, he's gotten right to work as our Vice President of Administration has been an invaluable addition to our national officer team. We're deploying new technology to support the invaluable work of our pilot volunteers and staff to improve efficiency. At the Delta MEC, they're working to test an AI program to add a chat feature to the MEC website that will quickly answer common questions through pilots that are submitted through the DART process. If successful, this technology can be rolled out across our union, providing an additional return on our members' investment. We've also deployed a new portal on the ALPA website for members to provide their banking information for the electronic transfers of any payments. As we begin to offer the return of dues this summer, we'll need your help in having members provide this information so they can receive their payment faster, eliminating the need for mailed checks. We're in the process of creating numerous e-learning modules as a resource for members to better understand the benefits of ALPA membership, access association information, and request compensation and reimbursements. Finally, to increase flexibility and reduce costs, our IT and finance departments moved our finance systems to the cloud. Across all the work that we do as a union, we're seeing the results of pilots and staff working together to achieve the common goals of our members. We're negotiating strong contracts, returning value to our members, creating international partnerships to address the safety threats of our industry, and we're working more efficiently. In other words, we are truly getting shit done. ALPA is a leading voice for aviation safety and the labor movement in the United States and Canada. Working together, we're building a historic level of safety in aviation while earning record-setting contracts. With your help, we've made aviation and the careers of our pilots stronger, and we'll keep building on that success for our members. Thank you.